Hey guys, I'm RNG Gamer. I play all my games randomly. First up, we have kind of a cult classic on the GameCube. People love this game. I knew nothing about it, but I played it with my daughter, and it's Kirby Air Ride. When I picked this up at a yard sale a few years ago, I had no idea what it was. I just saw Kirby, so I bought it. But this is a freaking combat kart racer, you know, with the characters from Kirby, just like you would expect. I guess the claim to fame with this game is that the controls are overly simple, but kind of tough to master. You can steer with the analog stick just like you would expect, but the only button you press is the A button. And that boosts you, it lets you suck up different enemies, absorb their powers, like attack the enemies, and pretty much everything else you can do in the game you just do with the flipping A button. I think that's a really cool idea in principle. But it did cause some confusion with my 9-year-old daughter. She had a hard time getting used to that, to tell you the truth. I kind of did too. It looks pretty great for a GameCube game. I think this thing is running at like 60 frames per second, but I have to say, it moves so quickly, it feels like F-Zero or something. It feels like you're playing 120 frames a second. The level design and the tracks in this are just incredible. They're unbelievably cool and unique and fun, and you feel like you're on a roller coaster the entire time. They have a bunch of shortcuts, alternate paths, all these hazards, really neat set pieces, enemies, like NPC enemies hanging out all over the level that you suck up to get, you know, the weapons that you use to attack the rivals and the people you're playing against. And I think this game can even hang in there with Mario Kart, at least Mario Kart from that time period, in terms of its level design and just the overall scope and spectacle of the courses. The music is unbelievably fantastic and really catchy. We had a good time with it. We were humming it as we were playing. That's what you want in a racing game. You want memorable, catchy, fun, exciting music. And Kirby Air Ride really provides that. There's 3 modes to this. There's a third-person kart racer, just like you expect, and what I've been talking about pretty much this whole time. And then there's an overhead version that plays like RC Pro-Am. It has basically the same rules, but much smaller courses. It's a single-screen racer with everybody looking, you know, on the same screen. And we found that to be a lot of fun too. But what the big draw to this game is, for a lot of people, is the city mode. You essentially start off with all the players in this open world city, and there are different power-ups scattered around the stage. And what you're supposed to do is kind of combat your enemies and race to the different power-ups to get all upgraded before finally like duking it out at the end and seeing who wins. It's probably more fun with 4 people and not just you and your 9-year-old daughter running around because, man, I put the hammer down on her pretty hard. I was able to grab probably 3 or 4 times as many pickups as she was. We didn't have as good of a time with that mode as maybe a lot of people did when they were younger. Still, it's a really interesting idea to kind of like have a 2-phase combat thing where you collect your power-ups and then, you know, fight each other in the end. A couple of the flaws with this game is that really, honestly, it doesn't have a ton of content. There are just a handful of tracks, I think maybe 8 of them, and they get really repetitive really quickly. You kind of do the same thing over and over and over again, and it can get kind of boring after a while. It's fun, but I feel like you can really experience everything the game has to offer, you know, in just maybe a couple of hours. And the real replay comes in with playing it with your friends. However, if you both start getting bored, or all of you start getting bored, there's really not a lot of reason to come back to this. The game does have this grid system of unlocks for each game mode, and it is full of tons of stuff to do. It'll say things like kill 5 of a certain kind of enemy in the level, or beat it under a certain time limit, things like that. Sometimes it will unlock something interesting like a new vehicle, but a lot of the time it just doesn't unlock anything usable. It's just kind of like a trophy or something like that. Now, I know this game has a cult following to it and people just love it to death. I can see why, but I don't think it has the staying power as Mario Kart, even though it kind of hangs in there with Mario Kart in terms of the gameplay. My daughter said Kirby Air Ride was a 6 out of 10. I personally feel like Kirby Air Ride is a 7 out of 10. It's a good game. It's a lot of fun. If you can pick it up somewhere cheaply, give it a shot.